Hello, I'm Marcus Buckland, formerly of Sky Sports, and now one of the two main tennis presenters on Amazon Prime Video. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to this Business of Tennis webinar presented by the Tennis Industry Association UK. TIA UK is the not-for-profit members trade organisation bringing together companies, clubs and individuals with business interests in UK tennis. Now, I would normally be introducing this topic live from the All England Club, but because of COVID-19, the TIA UK has converted its annual Business of Tennis Forum into a series of webinars aimed to help tennis club businesses grow and be more profitable. The series of webinars is sponsored by BLM, the TIA UK's legal partner, and is supported by the LTA. Now, the webinar topics focus on some key business issues affecting clubs and operators of tennis venues, illustrate best practice, and how clubs can maximize opportunities to grow and increase revenue. Of course, we are living in strange times and there are plenty of challenges ahead, but there's also a lot of support from the governing body and others such as TIA UK to help get tennis clubs back on track. The good news is that you don't need to take any notes because a copy of this webinar will be available on the TIA UK website. The webinar is pre-recorded, but you can send any questions to the email given at the end of the webinar and you'll be answered just as quickly as possible. We sincerely hope that you find this interesting, informative and forward-thinking. Thank you very much.
A significant number of clubs report difficulty in recruiting coaches with the right skills. Coaches make a great contribution towards growing club membership, and today's webinar looks at how to attract the right coaches for your club or venue. We will hear the thoughts of We Do Tennis, a growing company that focuses on providing coaches as an outsourced service. We will also learn from global tennis company Wilson about what they look for in a tennis coach and the benefits of alignment between company, coach and club. But first we hear from Virtus Leisure Management, the company that runs Bromley Tennis Centre amongst others, about their experiences with recruiting and mentoring tennis coaches.
Hi, my name is Sarah Langford and I'm from Virtus Leisure Management. I've been invited by the TIA to join this webinar about growing your game through investment in tennis coaches. I have a presentation to share, so I'm going to switch my screen and stop my camera. I'm going to take you through a presentation. It's only short, but I hope there are things that you can all take from this. During this session, I'm going to refer to your club as your venue or your facility or your club. So I'm going to be using those terms interchangeably. So a little bit more about Virtus Leisure Management. We're a tennis facility and coaching program provider. We operate Bromley Tennis Centre, Bucks Indoor Tennis Centre and Aldershot Tennis Centre. Across our venues, we have over 4,000 people attending coaching classes per week. This is in addition to court hire and social events. And across these sites, we have approximately 30 plus coaches operating. Most of those deliver our coaching program and some are visiting coaches delivering performance tennis or specialist coaching. We internally manage our coaching program. That's a decision we've taken and we employ professional administrators to do this. They support our centre managers at each venue. And we are a coach development centre, originally delivering in Kent from Bromley Tennis Centre, and from January we'll be delivering as the lead provider in Surrey and Kent and Sussex. Through our coach development centre activities, our team have trained over 1,000 coaches and we've taken them through their level 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, coach professional development courses and play tests. Today's agenda to discuss growing your club through investment in tennis coaches, I'm going to cover 3 different topics. We're going to talk about having a shared vision, the importance of the recruitment process, and then working together once you've got your right team in place. So we're starting with our shared vision. Now, I can't stress the importance of this enough. It is really important that the club clearly sets out their vision, and it's vital for a successful outcome that you take your coaching workforce on this journey with you, not just as a passenger, but perhaps as a co-pilot. Coaches are a really valuable resource that, if they're nurtured and kept on track, can really be the difference between an average tennis venue and a really highly successful one. However, in my experience, coaches can be easily distracted by exciting opportunities. For example, the venue's vision might be to grow the junior program and grow the volume of players in that program, and a coach may get completely distracted by one very talented youngster who they then want to focus their time on. So I'll talk later about how important communication is, but it is really important that you share this vision with your coach and you take them on that journey. Ultimately, the club will be there for a very long time, we hope, and coaches will effectively come and go. So it's really important that you do review your coaching provision. Many of you will feel that your coach is the right coach for your club, but may not be delivering in the way that you would like. So I can't stress just how important this second point is, to review that provision. If you need to, you may need to reset the visions for your club and sit your coach down and discuss them. It can really be easy for a venue or a coach to become complacent, and laziness sets in even with the best coaches. So I really recommend frequent meetings that don't get postponed or cancelled. It's really easy for both parties to find something else that they feel is more important, but this really needs to be prioritised. And keeping the communication open is really in the best interest of everybody, and it will directly impact the club's ability to grow and flourish. My advice is to be really clear with the messages you deliver as a venue to your coach, and ensure they've understood what they've said and what they've heard. Now, coaches know, just like we do, that everybody hears messages in different ways. They learn this on their coaching classes throughout their career. So my advice would be to have the coach repeat back to you what you've said and finalise everything that has been said in the form of an email after. You really can't be too careful with this. And then in terms of leadership, lead from the front. Understand what the opportunities are for your club and understand the support that the LTA are providing, because there's some really great programs out there that might suit your club, but that your coach might potentially disregard. For example, the new LTA youth program is fantastic, and some coaches will have the tendency to think it's the mini tennis program reinvented. However, I strongly believe that there are some areas in this LTA youth program that will really help many clubs. For example, not a lot of clubs really nail the TOTS program and get that right from the very beginning. The new LTA youth program has a stage for TOTS called Blue Tennis that is perfect and really needs investigating further. And then lastly, in terms of leadership, really keep everyone involved in what's going on, and that includes your members. If you don't communicate well with your coaches and your members, you potentially have a situation where the club can become divided. So successful clubs really will communicate effectively with everybody involved. Okay, recruitment. Recruitment is really, really important as well. And many clubs and venues get this wrong. And it's not an embarrassment to get it wrong. We all have to learn how is best for us and for our venue. However, my advice would be split into 3 sections. So attraction in the first instance is hugely important. The LTA have a great product where we can advertise our jobs on their website. Now, this is really useful and it's the main place coaches go to find jobs, but I would advise not to rely on this entirely. We have a great system in tennis in the UK with county associations and regional teams, and now coach development centres that come in contact with coaches all the time. So really get involved and ask around. There might be a great coach in another club who won't get the opportunity to be a head coach. Perhaps there's no further for them to go, that might want to come and join your club. And that's not poaching necessarily, but that's sharing resources and having those relationships with other clubs that you can have those conversations. And involve your club manager. If you're lucky enough to have a club manager or that's your setup, really involve them in this process, because they're obviously going to be the person liaising with them in the most part. However, if the club manager has to look across multiple disciplines in your venue, like cricket and squash and a gym, then do make sure they know tennis, or nominate somebody from your committee that knows tennis to upskill that person, as that's really, really essential. And then look within your venue. Perhaps you have a future head coach in your junior program. Ask your coach whether there's any talent ID going on. This is also something that your committee or your manager can be involved in. And consider whether this is not just for a coaching team, but perhaps as a future administrator or a future manager in your junior program. Now, if the pathway doesn't exist and there's no formal talent ID option here, then perhaps you need to set up some leader courses and question whether some leaders need to be involved in the junior program, get them involved in competition organising. And there are lots of resources that the county and the regional teams from the LTA can provide for you to set this up if you haven't got anything to hand. And then the interview process. Now, this is really important, that we don't just interview from a CV. So the CV is the first piece of information you receive about your coach, but it doesn't necessarily paint an accurate picture. So my advice would be to really delve into that CV, maybe call the coach and invite them over the phone to an interview. You'll get a really good feel for what that coach is like when they receive a call for their business. Effectively, you could be a new customer inquiring. So use all of those opportunities to understand what the coach is all about. And then if they are interesting enough that you want to interview them, do that in an environment that they might be working in. So I would really recommend that you see your coach delivering on court, and that they deliver in an environment that they will be coaching in if they were to join your club in this role. Now, many coaches would offer to do an example lesson, perhaps for a one-to-one, if that's where they're most comfortable. But if you're expecting them to deliver the majority of your junior program, then I would get your junior players in to be part of the interview process and have them deliver a session that you can see them on court in a real-life environment. And then when you're discussing the skills of your coach, really understand whether they do have the admin skills they perhaps profess to have on their CV. Now, it's really easy to say we're great at admin. I'm pretty sure most people would say that. However, it's not always the case. And a great tennis coach, if they're really honest about their admin skills, could still be a great asset for your club if you're able to provide that admin support in another way. And a very good coach, so not a great coach, but a good coach with great admin skills, really will be a great asset. So finally, in the interview process, it's obviously really important to get references, but I think it's even more important to check them. So let's not just tick a box and get a reference, which is relatively simple, but it's important that we check them and we do a little bit of digging and really understand what the references mean from these other venues or these personal references. And then in terms of whether coaches are employed or self-employed in your venue, it's really up to what suits your club. And my advice would be to consider all options. At Virtus and in our sites, our head coach is employed and our team of self-employed coaches report to them. That's really important for us because we manage the curriculum and we lead what's being delivered in our programs, but that might not work for your club or your venue. So a team of self-employed coaches might be the way forward, but take some advice. There are some really great resources that the LTA teams can provide for you, not just from LTA staff members, from external businesses that are linked to the LTA that really have some great advice, and it can be really helpful. So understand what's more important and whether an employed or a self-employed head coach and coaching team might suit you best. Okay, and then lastly, once you've got your team in place, it's really important, like I said at the first section, that we don't become complacent, because laziness can set in on the side of both parties very, very easily. So my advice would be to have frequent meetings, meet with your team, not just with your head coach, keep the communication channels open. Now, in my experience, seldom do coaches communicate too much, but often too little communication can really lead to underperformance and quite significant problems all round, which could have been avoided with regular meetings or regular catch-ups in whichever form works for you. And with the increased use of Zoom in the past few months, that may well be a much more preferred option, with everyone being so busy, particularly if your committee is voluntary. And then lastly, program management, we take really seriously at Virtus. Like I said, we manage that in-house. We have a team of professionals that have experience delivering programs and managing them. It's a really important part of what's being delivered. On court, we have professionals and we have experts in our coaching team. So we should consider having experts in our program management offering. And an in-house management of coaching programs may be a better option for your venue. And like I said before, it's very, very rare to find a fantastic head coach who is also a fantastic administrator. And quite frankly, in my opinion, they simply don't exist. And if everyone is honest about their skills, that relationship can really flourish for the coach and for the club. Okay, so in summary, what we've covered today and what I'd like to really stress and I hope you take away from this presentation is the need to have a really clear vision, and for the club to drive this vision and to take that coach or your coaching team on that journey with you. And then communicate really effectively and regularly to drive this vision. It really won't live on its own if it doesn't live around the club and within your language and your communication with your coach and your members. And recruit well, see your coaching or your prospective coaches in situations they might be likely to deliver at your venue. And then continually review. This is really, really important, because laziness and complacency are far too much of a problem, and they can really be avoided if everyone is kept on the same track. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope there were some interesting takeaways for you and for your club, and I hope that some of these will help you grow your club through investment in tennis coaches.
Hi, I'm Nigel Hunter, one of the two directors for We Do Tennis. As a business, we help support tennis coaches and venues all over the country. Really pleased to be asked to present today on the subject of coaches. So let me just share my screen. So today's talk is about growing club for investment in tennis coaches. All tennis coaches we know get into it because they've got a passion for tennis, just like us. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the changing world of tennis coaches. And I think one of the really big factors when we speak to coaches and to venues is around that things have changed. You can't just do what you've always done. And there's lots of more sports and activities that we're now competing against. So children and parents have that throwaway lifestyle that like to try all sorts of activities, whether that's taekwondo to Zumba dancing, you name it now, and children have got that opportunity to try lots of sports. So as coaches and as a sport, we've just got to be better. We've got to come up with really exciting and innovative ways to get people into the game. So we tend to find a lot of coaches, a lot of venues have what we refer to as an old school thinking. And that's just running programs the way it's always been done, whether that's half term, full term, asking people to fill out paper forms and checks and pay for a term up front. And that just leads to lots of problems where, 3 or 6 times a year, you're going to have parents asking their children whether they want to continue when they continue with lessons. And if they've just had a bad lesson the week before, or it's been raining, then all of a sudden they say they don't want to do tennis again and they'll try something else. So it really is a changing world, and need to look at how to modernize that. The other factor we've found in terms of venue and coach recruitment is that previous model of a really all singing, all dancing, one head coach tends to be less and less, tends to be harder to find that really high level person that can lead everything and do every part of the club. When we speak to a lot of these head coaches, you'll find that there's less of a trend to take young coaches under their wing and mentor and train them and help develop the rest of the workforce. You know, a lot of coaches have got to a point where they've been tired of doing that and see coaches go off and go and run another club on their own. So you tend to find that more coaches want to work in isolation. So there are just three real headline factors that we think there's a bit of a changing world in coaching for a venue to understand when you're looking at that next steps for how to move your coaching program forward. And even with those changes, we have high expectations. So as a venue, we're still wanting and expecting to see that one person come in and just deliver it. And maybe it's now a requirement to have, you know, more of a team approach. So just moving on. And the thing I wanted to look at was just the factors of success and what you as a venue and what you need to look for to really capture success and get things working well. So the first and foremost is we need great tennis lessons. We need an inspirational coach on the court delivering fun, engaging, you know, just brilliant tennis lessons. That's gonna help word of mouth, and it's gonna clearly be the most important factor for success around coaching. Second point I've looked at is around venue support and the relationship between the coach and the venue. This is an element that we come into lots of situations to help either the coach or the venue where this relationship's not working as it should be and it's maybe broken down. And it's really important to try and get that supportive environment where the coach feels enough freedom to go and do their thing, but at the same time, the club and the venue has got those controls in place to understand that targets are being met and the goals are being set and adhered to. So trying to get that relationship between the two is really important. And the final point that's often overlooked is the administration that sits behind it. Really important to have good controls, measures, things in place that really at a push of a button you can easily see how the progress is going. The number of venues that we go into, and first question is how many is on the program. We're told really boldly, 250 kids as an example. When we then ask for the sort of the details, we get a spreadsheet with just 200 names on it. Oh yeah, maybe it's not 250, it's now 200. When we do an income reconciliation, there's only 150 paid, and you know, obviously they're ballpark figures, but it's all too common that we go into a venue and the administration is just lacking and not in place, and people are working off numbers that don't exist. Moving on to recruitment. We've talked about the most important factor being a great coach. So recruitment has to see that coach deliver lessons that are going to happen in your club, in your venue, in different scenarios, and really test and see that on court. It pains me when I see coaches appointed through conversations without even seeing what that lesson, you know, what the lesson's going to look like and what the philosophy of the coach is. We talked about administration. Every coach we ever interview will always tell us they're great at administration. Some are, obviously, you know, that you know, don't want to generalize, but it's amazing how many coaches have worked for us or been associated and engaged by us, and once they start, it's really clear and evident to see that their administration is poor. Generally, as a tennis coach, the skill set is going to be more someone that can be on court, be engaging, and often that doesn't come with the flip side of someone being able to administer things back of house. So for me in recruitment, I want to test those skills. I want to set some exercises to see, run some tests to see what the administration's like. If a coach is open and honest up front and says admin's not their thing, great, no problem. We can find other solutions and we can work around that. But there's nothing worse than thinking a coach is going to do all the admin, getting a little bit down the journey and realizing that's a clear problem. My last point on recruitment is references, asking for formal references, following them up. But more importantly, tennis is a small world. It's not difficult to find a key person within the county in England that they're going to work in. And from that point, doing a little bit of background research just to find out a little bit. Again, we see far too often when we're asked to come in to solve a problem where the relationship hasn't worked out. And from our initial research, we've seen it happen before, and you know, it clearly could have been avoided, the situation, if just a little bit of background checking was done. So my final slide today is about the outsourcing coaching model. When we go to work with a venue, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. We often advocate that the best way is to keep it in-house and run it by the venue. But in certain cases, an outsourcing model is a great way to do that. And as a venue, that pushes some of the responsibility, if I haven't got the time to do, and really can motivate a coach or a coaching team to do a great job when they've got the full control. So advantages of an outsourcing coaching model, first and foremost, is the network. Having a big team of people, extra support, and for coaching, it can be a bit of a lonely journey in some clubs. So being part of a team and a network can have a real benefit. The support that goes with that is evident. You're going to have administration, you're going to have back of house, and having that admin will just help move that forward. And as part of that larger organization or coaching team outsourcing it, you will generally find that there's some strong administration and marketing support. So lots of tennis coaches find themselves just too busy on court delivering lessons. When you've outsourced the coaching model to a situation where you have a bit more time, there'll be some more energy and time money spent on marketing. And if we're going to move the clubs and the venues forward, marketing is going to be a key factor. Big advantage is that sort of cover scenario. If coaches are ill or have absent leave for some reason, you will find an outsourced model will be able to just cover that. When a coach normally leaves a venue, lots of players then follow that coach. That's commonplace. If it's been outsourced and it's been sort of centrally managed, it will be much easier to maintain the program, communication with the players, and bring another coach in to cover that while the next plan's in place. And I think that the final point I looked at with outsourcing was just that, in taking the emotion out, you know, making it a bit more impartial. You're having clear measures and an impartial sort of look at things, as opposed to being a bit too ingrained. When you as a venue have recruited and brought one coach and given more responsibility, you feel that sort of emotion to make that work and compete. So thanks for your time today. Hope you enjoy all of the series of the Tennis Industry Association webinars. Bye for now.
Hi everyone, my name is Val Vladea, Influencer Marketing Manager for the UK and Ireland Wilson Racquet. Today I have been invited by the TIA to speak with you in regards to how Wilson supports coaches and how that enhances the relationship with clubs. Wilson Advisory Staff, what is it? It's a group of coaches that we support, and in Europe alone we have over 2,500 coaches. And most of our coaches are linked via retailers. There are some federation coaches that aren't. There are certain former players that we support that aren't necessarily linked to a retailer, but majority of our coaches are through a retailer. And what do we provide for the coaches? Well, we provide the equipment, obviously. There's a sales incentive via the retailer. We host annual seminars. We have come up with an e-training platform for coaches where we send weekly emails with different topics, from how to select the best shoes to the mental aspect of tennis for junior players to, information on products from our global team, information on stringing, information on strings themselves and which strings are better, anything along those lines. They receive a weekly email, and this will continue into 2021 as well. Something we have always wanted to do, but obviously with COVID, it has helped us be able to start it sooner. We've also provided newsletters with updates around Grand Slams and access to demos and giveaways via a retailer. Why are coaches important to Wilson? So our mission and strategy for the coaches is that we leverage the strength of our coaches. They are our secondary sales force. They are the ones that are day-to-day with the end consumer. They're the ones that know their needs, their game style, the things they're working on. So they're the ones that are in the best position possible to provide what racket that person needs. They're the ones that can make the best decision. They can see what a racket does for that member. For example, they go out and they have 5 different rackets they want to try. They can see which racket does what that player is wanting. The retailers are obviously very important, but ultimately they don't see the consumer playing. We want to make sure that our coaches are educated, trained, and supported. They become a complete brand expert. And in order to be selling Wilson 360, you have to be that CBE or a complete brand expert. And as a coach, we would hope that you recruit junior players. So you have heard of a player, or know that this player plays national tournaments and is an up-and-comer, has great potential, then obviously we would expect that those names are provided to us so that we can look into it and may potentially start supporting them. And also increase sales opportunities via demos or on-court events, in-store, online, anything along those lines. So how do they enhance relationships? By having a coach who is positive, passionate, and proud. That permeates to the members. The members can see it, they can feel it. They know that coach is proud to be part of Wilson, proud to be part of that club. It helps give them a better feel for the club and hopefully bring more friends over. Knowing the product, again, elevates the professional profile of the coach. They know what they're talking about. They walk the walk, talk the talk. They're able to then provide a better service to their clients. Hosting a demo event, same as earlier, it's very important. You have to be able to provide something different for your clients and a way for them to be able to purchase the best rackets possible. Creating and nurturing a relationship with the retailer goes without saying. In order for rackets to be sold, there has to be that positive relationship there that goes back and forth. And it needs to be nurtured by both parties in order for it to continue, for the members to get the best discount possible, for that relationship of rackets being strung next day, things along those lines. And lastly, to familiarize and utilize all of our social media platforms. And that helps the club, that helps the members. Yes, you're going to use social media, and tag us into posts. That's great, but you also tag in your club. You then can show your members, and members can follow you and see the work that you're doing as a coach, which benefits everybody. Right, so we've talked a lot about coaches and Wilson, but what about clubs? So a club's relationship with Wilson. We are constantly looking at, what clubs are doing, how they're doing different events, what events are they doing, what makes a special club. And we're constantly looking. Doesn't always happen that we sponsor new clubs every year, but it is important to have those conversations with those clubs, and might not be something that we can provide this year, but is there anything we can provide the next year? And so if you think you fit into some of these criterias and you'd like to have a discussion, my details will be at the end of the presentation. But what types of things we look for? We look for an engaged membership. Do they come to the events? Do you host a lot of different events that members are proud to be a part of? Good coaching program, goes without saying. Obviously, what are the numbers in your coaching program? Is there an adult program that's thriving? Is there a junior program? that ranges from 3-year-olds all the way to junior pathway for, those that are a bit more competitive and playing LTA, national tournaments. What about club teams? How many club teams do you have? Do they play part of, the adult leagues and things like that? What about disability programs? Is your club offering those? Location is important, for different reasons. Can we host certain events that maybe, we can, bring non-members to, and different aspects of that? Or is your club, just all members and a lot harder to access for non-members? Facilities are important, indoor, outdoor. Is there a club room where you can host certain things? Social media prominence, mentioned earlier with the coaches, but yeah, it's 2020. We are doing more and more on social media. COVID hasn't helped that. We are more and more on social media. So even though, yes, we're tennis clubs and you're tennis clubs and we're a tennis company, it is important for us to make sure that we continue with online activation as much as possible. And that would be part of it. Positive relationship with the retailer. Does the club have a relationship currently with the retailer that carries Wilson? What does that relationship look like? Is it a positive one? Does the retailer currently provide discounts to your members? Does the retailer come on site to do different events with you to help grow their shop, but also, to make sure that the members have a great experience and they can purchase items quicker? And lastly, events. Are you open to having different events, from demos to something completely innovative, speakers, for example, anything along those lines? So those would be really important for us. And this really is the last thing from me today, but hopefully I think everyone has realized that in order for the end consumer to have a positive experience, to enjoy the time that they spend at a club, on court, with a coach, we all need to work together. Club, coach, retailer, us as the brand, we all need to work together to ensure that that end consumer receives the best positive experience. Ultimately, this is a sport that they're doing to relieve stress, to exercise. So we want to make sure that they are at the forefront of everything we do. And it should be for everybody involved as well. How can we make it easier for them to purchase? How can we make it easiest for them to try new things? So all those things are taken into consideration. I think this picture on the right hand side sums it up completely. We were at an event. She didn't come there to play tennis. She was watching her brother and just absolutely loved the fact that she had her favorite color and just started playing on her own. And then the parents started playing with her. Then the parents started asking me questions about rackets for them. So I think it does make a difference if we have that end consumer in mind. So hopefully we can all work together and create the best environment. So lastly, thank you. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My email address and telephone are on the slide. I'm sure it'll be shared with you, but reach out, ask any questions, and happy to help as much as I can. Thank you, Julie and Phil. Appreciate the opportunity to present to everybody today. Wishing you all a great end of 2020, and thankfully tennis is the one sport that is allowed during these COVID times. So hopefully we can make the best for everybody that does come out to play some tennis. Thank you, everyone.
Well, we very much hope that you found this webinar of interest to your own business. Tennis has been more fortunate than some other sports in being able to get back to some sort of normality at a relatively early stage, and many clubs have recorded an increase in interest and membership during the pandemic, which of course is encouraging for the industry as a whole. From my own personal point of view, Prime Video were thrilled by the number of people who watched the Battle of the Brits at the NTC during the summer, then the Cincinnati event, which of course took place in New York, the US Open itself, and most recently the Italian Open in Rome. If you want to ask a question in relation to the contents of this webinar, you can email phil@tiauk.org. That's phil@tiauk.org, and you will receive a response shortly afterwards. Details of other webinars and information on the TIA UK can be found on the website tiauk.org. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching.